know how it works around here. I take care of everyone's needs.
You're too close again!
Shina Aki, a midget beta male, decides to move to Tokyo for middle school. After settling into the Sunohara dorm, he begins his mission to become the ultimate Giga Chad and practices his Riz game on the F-Cup caretaker and the girls of the student council, who all live in the dorm with him. While heading to a bakery, 3 high school hotties walked past a little kid staring at the maps and had a little argument about the kid's gender. Typical problem in first world countries nowadays. After strolling through town, the little kid named Shina Aki got directions to the Sunohara dorm from a liquor store owner and made his way to his new home with a mission to finally become a Sigma middle schooler. Aki's mission hit a road bump when he got ambushed by the dorm's caretaker, an F-Cup goddess named Sunohara Ayaka, who caused him to become brain dead with her massive milk jugs and carried him to the bathroom thinking that the midget beta was a cute girl. When the fun-sized otaku finally regained control over his mind and started to analyze the situation, she came into the bathroom to wash his back and fried his underdeveloped dopamine receptors. After fighting his demons, Shina decided to come clean and told her that he was a boy who had skipped puberty, but Ayaka, who is likely related to Drake, didn't care and helped the young man get cleaned up with her love touch. After the fun-sized otaku, who passed out from overexcitement, woke up to his caretaker's warm drumsticks and melons,
Nice.
he realized that she had seen his baby carrots, but she wasn't the type that liked cucumbers and left to make dinner after cheering him up with her suffocating melons. Aki, who was now able to think clearly, remembered his Giga Chad dreams and knew that if he was ever going to get a chance to clap Miss Milk Jugs, he had to act like a man. So he started trying to act like one, but his beta male genes got the best of him and made him look even creepier than usual. Ayaka, who knew what he was trying to do, decided to give him a little confidence boost and asked for a peck. But before he could demonstrate his manliness, the other girls living in the dorm came back and scolded the caretaker for being an unhinged young buck lover. Yukimoto Yuzu, the smallest of the group who barely escaped being a dwarf, was the student council president at Tanamichi Middle School. Yanamashi Sumire, a blue-eyed sadist with an unhealthy addiction to President Yapsalot, was the vice president, and Kazami Yuri, who was definitely a serial killer in a previous life, was the council secretary. After giving the newbie a crash course on the president's lack of self-respect, Yanamashi left to have a bath with her precious living gnome, and Yuri filled him in on her plan to get the weirdos to hook up. A week had passed in the Sunohara dorm, and it was the first day of school. After catching Ayaka trying to suffocate Aki with her melons, Yuzu left with the others for the opening ceremony while Aki hung back and had a very physical roleplay session with Ayaka to get himself prepped for socializing in his new school. At the end of the day, he had managed to not get arrested or beaten for his creepshow vibes, so Ayaka congratulated him with her melons and reminded him to always ask her for help if he needed it. Aki, who had started to get comfortable with his middle school life, was heading to his room to get started on some homework when he ran into Ayaka, who was dressed like an NFL cheerleader and made him forget that he was a student with her cheer moves.
What?
When he asked why she was dressed like something out of a OF scene, the girls came in after Yanamashi cracked Yuzu's underdeveloped skull on the door beam and explained that they were prepping for the school sports day. They were all on the school's red team, and in order to secure a victory, Yuzu had signed the beta male up for a 3-legged race with Ayaka. So, for the rest of the day, they practiced yoga stretches where Ayaka almost snapped him in half with her 800cc and worked on their racing form that needed a lot of perfecting due to how Ayaka's melons were making the fun-sized otaku's brain jiggle.
Damn!
With a lot of time before the D-Day, they worked on synchronizing themselves by doing everything together, especially baths and naps. They were also getting a lot of practice and stretches in, but when it was finally sports day, Aki became paralyzed and lost all brain function due to how draining it was to keep up with his psychotic caretaker. Days later at noon, Aki heard the dwarf president scream from the bathroom and used it as the perfect opportunity to see if he had a thing for the cute gnome who was terrified of spiders. After she called him a spineless wuss for being too scared to get rid of the mutant bug, Yanamashi came to the rescue but passed out when the terror of having a palm-sized tarantula on her face fried her central nervous system. Yuri, who had seen enough Nat Geo documentaries to know what they were dealing with, gave them a crash course from a safe distance before making a swift exit. Luckily for the group of scared geeks, Ayaka, who was missing half her cerebellum, felt nothing when Spider-Kun fell into her bosom and calmly escorted it out the window. After she asked Aki to escort her to the local shops, Yuzu told him to figure out what their lunatic caretaker was scared of so they could have an edge over her. Knowing that he had never gone out with her before, he was struggling to find something nice to wear and considered busting out his cross-dressing alter ego, which the girls seemed to like. But after ultimately settling with the hand-me-downs he could find in his dresser, he left for their little shopping date that had the locals thinking they were sisters and made their first stop at the liquor store, where he met the owner named Yatsuho, who gave him directions when he first moved in. She reminded Ayaka of the upcoming beer fest before they left, and for the rest of their shopping trip, the wannabe Sigma kept gawking and failed to gather any important information. After explaining his incompetence to Yuzu back at the dorm, she gave him a horror movie to watch with Ayaka, but he ended up being the one to soil his pants. So after making no progress but still being desperate to figure out her kryptonite, he walked up to her and straight up asked for her weakness, which, according to the dust-brained caretaker, was being snuck up on Saint Night. Later that night, he snuck into her room to scare her, but ended up lacking enough eggplants to see it through. When he tried to leave, Ayaka, who was still awake, pulled him into the bed, revealing that she had tricked him into playing out her fantasies, and the next morning, the girls caught them hand in hand after a night of troubling activities. With the weather being hot enough to give Snow White an instant tan, President Shortstack decided to stay in the otaku's room since it was on the first floor and wasn't as dirty as she expected. After catching him staring at her Ero manga, she asked him to sit with her on the bed, but due to a chronic lack of Riz that had left him with no normal female experience throughout his life, he sat miles away like a clueless mannequin and left her to take the necessary action. As she read while sitting in front of him, a certain special scene in the Ero manga made her realize that the beta male had the same special tools as the men in her manga, and when he pressed in while turning over the page, she acted like the average Gen Z wannabe baddie who can't eat what they dish out and made a run for it. She eventually came back after a personal pep talk and saw that Ayaka had taken over from her. Yanamashi, who was stalking the president, started to follow the fun-sized otaku everywhere until he drew the line at the bathroom. She was trying to figure out what he had that made her precious president start to drop in IQ points and almost found out that he was a baby carrot owner while doing her physical examination. She then followed him into his room and started looking through his things while he feasted his eyes on her rice cakes. After finding a stuffed animal hidden away, she realized that he was a collector of cuteness like her and almost went nuts in excitement. With her assessment complete, she assured Ayaka that she had no special interest in the fun-sized otaku and gave him room to breathe. Later on, Yuzu and Yuri took him to check on the psycho stalker who was having a severe mood swing after President Shortstack wasn't allowed to go on a ride at the amusement park due to being the same height as Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. To make her feel better, he switched to his cross-dressing alter ego and let her carry him on her shoulder. Later that day, Yuri asked for his help, and after getting to her room thinking she needed some extra muscle for a job, she made him play dress-up and took some rather unsettling images of him to add to her collection. He eventually left after hiding with her in the closet when Ayaka came by, and she propped up an image from the collection as a way to remember the beta's lack of testosterone. After talking about the superstition around women who marry in June having the most loyal husbands, Yuzu told the fun-sized otaku about the type of wife she wanted to be and almost messed up his face when he laughed at her housewife dreams. The other girls who heard them joined in, and Yuri told them of her dreams to play countless and very toxic mind games on her husband to get him to the point where he would become obsessed with her and require her touch to function in life. According to Yuzu, Yanamashi was the type to play independent feminist during the day and become a love-hungry bottom at night.
Oh my God!
They then asked Ayaka for her goals as a wife, but she claimed to prefer her current life as a dishwasher for underage lunatics. While heading to his room later on, Aki was ambushed by Yuzu, who needed his help to figure out how she could increase the size of her chopping board chest. Aki, who could tell that she was an insanely insecure midget, helped her do some research and left her to practice a special massage rumored to help get some size. After running into Ayaka in the laundry room and realizing that the secret to her 800 cc's was her loving heart, he went to inform the president, who got embarrassed when he caught her running a melon massage routine. She eventually gave up hope on ever growing until she saw Ayaka with an old swimsuit the same size as her. Feeling motivated, she ran off to resume her massages, not realizing that Ayaka wore those in elementary school. Days later, while the girls were away on council business, the fun-sized otaku saw the opportunity of a lifetime outside his window and rushed to help Ayaka fix up their roof as the rainy season was starting up. They ended up stuck on the roof and drenched when it eventually started to rain until the girls came back and helped them down. After getting back from school days into the season, the girls bullied him and went to have a warm bath where President Shortstack, who still hadn't received the miracle of growth, asked her friends to share some skin while they talked about an upcoming trip. Later on, Ayaka found the stuffed beta catching a cold and offered her warm bosoms as a heating pad, but he decided to settle for a lap nap and woke up after the girls came out for ice cream. With the rainy season officially over, the kids wanted to start off their summer with a splash, but with laziness being the only thing they had in common, they decided to inflate a mini pool in the yard instead of going to the beach itself. After filling up the rubber pool with enough water, Yuri helped Yuzu show off her swimsuit since she was a little hesitant to force the image of her chopping board chest into everyone's mind on the first of summer. When she noticed that Yuzu and Yanamashi had different swimsuits from the ones they bought together, she asked them why, and quickly regretted the question when they explained that their ability to grow like normal people made them too big for the swimsuits. President Shortstack was also not wearing the expected swimsuit, but unlike her friends, she had to return hers for being too big for her doll-sized body. To protect her friends from becoming Aki's targets, she forbade him from joining them and left him to deal with Ayaka, who chased him around trying to get him to flex his one-pack. After the deluded caretaker got him to share the pool with her, he dried up in the house and was headed to the living room when he ran into Yuri, who was randomly capturing pictures on her new camera and watched as Yanamashi came out and negotiated with her for some never-before-seen footage of the president in her natural habitat. When Yanamashi left, Yuri agreed to spare his life in exchange for him setting a trap for her next shot of the president and getting photos of Ayaka as well. With practically no experience in the art of being an incognito paparazzi, the dust-brained crossdresser got caught on the first try but was able to snag a few pics that satisfied his master. With the semester being over, they were officially starting their summer break, but according to the Sunohara tradition, they had to finish their homework first, and Ayaka was going to help them all, starting with Aki. So the next day, while the girls went to handle student council business, he cleaned up his room and set up a welcome banner for Ayaka, who pulled up in a teacher's uniform that somehow managed to hold her 800 cc's. Aki's excitement to spend the day with her quickly faded away when he found out that she had a Karen alter ego that showed up whenever there was homework and wouldn't let him leave or take leaks until he finished all the work. After completing his homework, they were having popsicles when Yatsuho came by to drop a crate of drinks for the kids and a beer for Ayaka. By the time the girls came back and warned him about letting Ayaka take alcohol, she was already down the whole bottle and became a smooching psycho that sucked the life out of their eyes with a forced mouth fluid exchange. With luck on Aki's side, she passed out right before she could treat his baby carrot like the popsicle they had earlier and woke up on his 8-inch thighs after getting her senses back. On his way back to his room to escape the intense heat, Aki opened the door and found a tanned wannabe Harley Quinn in the room. After shutting himself out to get a grip on his intrusive thoughts, she opened up and apologized for the invasion of privacy. She was actually living in the dorm up until a year ago, and since that was her room, she was taking a look around while he took a look at her. Noticing his lack of focus, she asked for his name and checked to make sure he was a man like he claimed. Yuzu, who was also coming to his room, unsuccessfully tried to make a U-turn when she saw Nana and dragged Aki out to explain who their new guest was while she changed. When she told him that Nana was the last middle school council president, he realized that their middle school was a classless institution before they went back in to see Nana testing out her high school outfit. Yuzu, who was trying to assert her dominance as the current president, immediately challenged her to a geek off and failed after 3 questions due to her brain's lack of storage space. Ayaka, who heard their scuffle, came in to get them to stop the noise and saw Nana, who was actually her younger sister. While they ate, she told them of her plans to spend the summer break with them and suggested a trip to the public pool to start things off. The next day, Aki woke up to the Japanese Harley Quinn, who was sleeping next to him and scared her off with his creepy nerd stare. She eventually came back and pulled out a Nintendo she hid in the ceiling. With the game set up, she forced the otaku to become her pet and showed him the ropes until he passed out from aura intoxication. By the time he woke up, she emotionally blackmailed him into playing a few rounds with her and soaked him in the humiliation of constant defeat for the rest of the morning until he passed out again. After dreaming about lathering up the sisters in their mommy milkers with sunscreen, he woke up and found her passed out on his bed again. The next day, they all went to the community pool, and while the girls all got into the water and cooled off, Aki was getting mentally assaulted by two randos who pinned him to the wall and demanded a fun time. Luckily, the spray-tanned weirdo was there to rescue him and found out that his attackers were actually her friends, Mia and Uchifuji, which made perfect sense since they all had the same level of psychosis that made them attracted to the midget beta male. After Ayaka bewitched Nana's friends with her aura, Nana claimed that Aki was her pet and had to beg Ayaka for full rights to the boy toy, but since Ayaka also had plans for him, they decided to have a swim-off with the winner getting full custody. As the sisters raced in the water with Ayaka's milkers keeping her afloat and evenly matched with the spray-tanned Harley Quinn, they ended up wasting away the whole day, while Mia and Uchifuji had the boy toy to themselves. With Ayaka eventually winning by default, she went to get her prize for his swimming lessons, but the pool was already getting closed for the day.
No! God, please, no!
After intentionally deciding to watch a horror movie where the girl from The Ring found a chainsaw, Yuzu passed out from terror, and Aki, who was putting up the unfazed Sigma facade, nearly shat himself when Nana gave him a jump scare. Later that night, he started hearing noises in the wall, and after making sure he wasn't high, he took a pillow and went to Ayaka's room, but after seeing Yuzu there, he acted like he was just taking a casual night stroll in the house with a pillow and told her about the noise before leaving after Ayaka told them about a sealed old storage room that was beside his room and could only be accessed through a door on the outside. Deciding to put on his big boy pants, he made his way to the storage room and found Nana having a late-night cardio session. She explained that she had burned through her credit score buying dumbbells and had run out of space to keep them at her place. She then asked him to keep her gym shopping addiction a secret from Ayaka, but she was a bit too late as Ayaka, who wanted to check out the noise Aki was complaining about, found her and decided to punish her with bell peppers and shiitake mushrooms. Days later, after helping Ayaka wash the walls and spending most of the time gawking at her milkers, he realized that he needed to find a way to help reduce her workload, and Yuri, who overheard him, had the perfect masseuse routine for him to try out. They first tested it out on Yamanashi after tying her up 50 Shades style to keep her in place, and then he went to his precious caretaker with a massage coupon that she immediately redeemed. With the shoulder massage doing its job, he decided to go for the kill blow and hit her on the spot Yumi taught him about, but it didn't have much of an effect on her, so she left and he went back to Yanamashi's room with Yuri to see if he had missed something. It turned out Ayaka was just too thick to feel the routine, while Yamanashi was a bit oversensitive, especially due to being tied up like Anna Gray. Mia and Uchifuji came over after spending the entire summer staring at the pubes of young boys at the pool and needed Nana's help with their homework. She decided to use Aki as a prize to motivate them to do the work, but after being turned into a passed-around boy toy by the depraved high schoolers, he passed out, and they decided to take a break to play the king's game. Ayaka, who came to check on them, put on her old uniform and joined the game where they took turns commanding each other to share a chocolate breadstick. After the girls left out Nana and kept falling for Ayaka's aura, she got pissed and tried to get a round in with Aki, but game time was up and Ayaka's assignment alter ego took over and made them finish their homework. After she left, Nana, who had heard of Aki's masseuse services, asked him to give them a couple of sessions, and he made them scream his name for the rest of the evening. Nana, who was back in Aki's room, put him in an arm lock after he acted nonchalant upon hearing that she would leave after the firework festival that was to take place in a week. On the day of the festival, he escorted Ayaka to the shops to get supplies for the house, and after they got back home, he hid and eavesdropped on the Sunahara sisters as Ayaka was apparently performing some secret routine on Nana that had her making funny noises. When she eventually came out and caught the creepshow peeper, she recommended an ear cleaning session to him, so he went in and placed his head on Ayaka's thighs to see what exactly Nana was talking about. After taking a quick sniff of her goods, he passed out from the hypnotic ear cleaning and woke up after Nana took a picture of him drooling over Ayaka. Luckily, Yuri, who was their local paparazzi, also took drool pics of Yuzu and Nana to keep them humble when they teased Aki. Later on, after slipping on a yukata for the festival, Nana tried to get the clueless otaku to pop some personal fireworks with her, but he wasn't advanced enough to know what she meant. After she opted to order a yukata for Ayaka, who lacked the necessary IQ points to operate a phone, they both got him to help them wrap their sarashis. President Shortstack, who wanted to personally invite Aki to walk with them to the festival, got pissed when she found him buried in the Sonohara sisters' melons and went ahead with the others. After getting to the festival, the sisters made him feel like an alien caught by the men in black and dragged him along as they played games while President Shortstack and the others went to check out the stands. Mia and Uchifuji, who were also at the festival, met up with them, and after getting some snacks and food from Yatsuho at her stand, they all tried to stuff his face with their treats and ended up pissing off the beta male, who was tired of being treated like a newborn golden retriever and ran away from them. A couple of minutes later, he realized that he was lost and got sad when the fireworks started and he wasn't with his girls. Meanwhile, Nana called President Shortstack and told her and the others that he had gone missing, so they started looking for him. Ayaka, who used her mummy senses, was able to track down her lost puppy who was done running, and Yuzu, who was too lazy for a search and rescue, used the festival sound system to put out a message commanding the runaway to find his way back to them. After they watched the fireworks together, they went back home, where Aki was eager to play the game with Nana for the first time and spent the night losing on repeat. The next day, it was time for her to leave, and after saying her goodbyes, she was headed to the station when Aki stopped her to promise that he would get stronger for their next Nintendo matchup. After putting on an outfit that looked like it was stolen from Tokyo's Hooters branch, Ayaka told Aki that they were going to Yatsuho's store to help out. It was Oktoberfest, the beer drinking festival Yatsuho told them about earlier, and she wanted Ayaka to help attract customers with her aura and needed the extra help from one of the students from the dorm since she was also going to be destroying her internal organs with alcohol. Since they usually had a girl to help out, Aki had to put on a dress and a wig, but seeing as that was nothing new for the self-degrading otaku who had long forgotten about Mission Sigma, he put on the costume and got to work. After having a rough start, Ayaka gave him a hand, and he eventually got the hang of playing the underage bar attendant. By the end of the day, Yatsuho thanked him for the help, and Ayaka nearly broke his back when she put all her weight on him after having more than a couple of drinks. The next day, Yuzu, Yanamashi, and Yuri left on a school trip, and after Aki ran away from Ayaka, who was trying to get straight to fun time, Nana showed up and asked for food, so she baked them potatoes in the yard, and as they ate, Nana took some pictures for the girls who also spammed them with pics from their trip that made Aki feel like he was being underfed. After getting inside, the sisters went to have a bath, and Nana, who noticed that she was packing on the pounds, blamed Ayaka for feeding her high-calorie goodies. She felt better when she saw that Ayaka was also getting bigger and was practically a couple of meals away from thick love handles. Later that night, Aki, who heard noise from the storage room, armed himself with the necessary tools to protect the women, but when he saw Ayaka struggling to understand how to use the treadmill, he left her to wallow in her embarrassment. After waking up to Ayaka, who had passed out beside him, Aki called the president, who was back from the school trip with the others, and they found out that Ayaka had caught a fever, so they left Aki to take care of her while they handled student council business at school. He spent the rest of the evening cleaning up Ayaka's leaking pores and pretended like nothing happened when the girls asked him about it the next day. After finally finding a reason to show up, Yatsuho came to the dorm to give Ayaka 2 passes to the Tanamichi Aquarium and convinced her to take a couple of shots in the meantime. Nana and her creepshow friends were headed home when they found Aki and decided to take him along for a girls' night out, and since it was Halloween, they rented costumes and went to a karaoke bar where they took turns straining their damaged vocal cords and causing Aki's eardrums to rupture. After forcing him to sing, they dragged him to a photo booth while Ayaka and Yatsuho went from barely finishing a bottle of sake to swallowing bottles of beer. By the time Aki got back after barely making curfew, he met Yuzu, who was also playing dress-up and tried to escape her interrogation, but his picture fell, and she saw the extracurricular activities he had spent the evening doing. When Yanamashi and Yuri came back as well, they went to check on Ayaka, who was past the point of no return with Yatsuho, and got captured by the drunken child lovers while Aki, who was happy to get them out of his hair, walked off. The next day, Aki and Ayaka went to the aquarium with the passes Yatsuho gave her after Yuzu, who was terrified of sharks, turned down the offer. He ended up making her regret her decision when he came back with his souvenir and geeked off about the penguins they saw. Later on, Yuri, who noticed how Yanamashi and Aki had been getting closer with time, met them discussing about how Yuzu had stopped growing since elementary school and told them that they looked like siblings. Her comment ended up kickstarting a back-to-back sister contest with the three girls trying to become the otaku's ultimate sister. After Yanamashi ended up being the only one to come close by recreating a bathroom experience the otaku had with his actual sister, they decided to call it quits when they realized that they were treading dangerous creepshow waters. After making her way through the streets of Tokyo and finding the Sunohara dorm, a white-haired psycho casually went into Aki's room and climbed him with her plot fully exposed. Aki, who woke up initially thinking Ayaka had come to give him the traditional morning top-off, realized that the weirdo trying to take off his shirt was his sister. Shina Matsuri was Aki's older sister who liked to dress him up like a British princess and thought he was a clueless airhead, which wasn't entirely false. After Ayaka apologized for intruding on their family bonding time, Matsuri introduced herself to the rest of the girls and wanted to brainwash Yuzu when she pointed out that Aki was a boy who would look better if his psycho sister stopped forcing him to wear royal gowns. With her short visit completed, she was ready to leave and wanted to take Aki back home with her, as the idea of her fragile brother living all alone in Tokyo didn't make any sense, but Aki, who was very comfortable with his life as a boy toy and occasional masseuse, wasn't ready to leave. After trying to force him to leave with her, Ayaka pulled Matsuri into her bosom and hit her with a taste of the legendary Sunohara aura, but the midget psycho was not one to be deceived. She knew that Ayaka was using her mummy milkers to deceive Aki, but since their parents approved of his stay at the dormitory and Aki wasn't exactly complaining about her techniques, the accusations were pointless. Matsuri then decided that she would be testing the F-Cup caretaker herself, and if Ayaka's techniques were not up to her standards, she would leave with Aki. Ayaka, who had not taken a test since her days in school, immediately switched to student mode and kicked things off with her aura-filled cooking. Matsuri, who was ready to leave Ayaka with a single-star review, started having an existential crisis when she saw the perfectly cooked Genkotsu hamburger steak Ayaka had prepared. After taking a bite, she forgot what she was doing and ate like a starving dog. Due to an inbuilt midget gene that made her naturally stubborn, she refused to be swayed, and Ayaka spent the rest of the day hitting her with hypnotic care and compassion that left the psycho rethinking her life choices. Even the Zen-focused ear cleaning had her seeing angels and experiencing pleasure beyond human comprehension. At the end of the day, she still managed to keep her goals in check, but since it was already late, Ayaka brushed her teeth and gave her the traditional Sunohara bath. While washing Matsuri's back, Ayaka suggested becoming an older sister to both of the siblings, that way they could all stay together. With her melon press and ear kiss combo, she sealed the deal and won over the psycho sister, who agreed to let Aki keep staying but promised to run another test sometime in the future. After Ayaka took Matsuri into the room to sleep, the others noticed that Aki was still in his princess costume and asked him why he was playing dress-up at night. The next day, while Aki and Ayaka went shopping, Matsuri tailed them looking for signs of abuse or unlawful activity. When she finally revealed herself and accused Ayaka of public indecency, she saw that the caretaker was simply feeding her student and decided to kidnap her brother while Ayaka was yapping about grocery shopping. After dragging him into an alley, he told her to move to Tokyo if she was truly worried about him, and after a couple of minutes of interrogating him, she realized that they were lost. She then spent hours trying to find a way back and turned a deaf ear to his advice until she sprained her ankle on a flight of stairs. Aki, who finally got a chance to shut the rambling psycho up, took a look at her feet, which reminded her of their childhood years, before piggybacking her to the dormitory, where she officially gave up on mission steal Aki and left. With school starting again a couple of days later, Aki got dressed and was about to leave when Matsuri showed up again dressed in uniform. She told them that she had transferred to a nearby high school and told Ayaka that she was still going to fight for the heart of her precious Aki, who she finally referred to as her brother. With winter rolling in and the fragile beta slowly freezing up, Ayaka prepared a kotatsu in the living room to keep them warm, and after tweaking the heater and playing Marco Polo under the table, she left to make tea while he slept on the table. A couple of days before Christmas, he was walking back home with Yuzu and told her about how excited he was to see Santa. For some reason, he believed that the bearded fatso, who is low-key a chimney burglar, was real, and he planned to stay up throughout the night of Christmas Eve to see him. When they got back home, Yuzu told the rest of the girls about his innocent delusion, and they discussed plans to save him from the heartache of a crushed dream. On Christmas Eve, Nana came to the dorm with her friends dressed in a Christmas outfit that clearly wasn't celebrating the season. While she got settled in, Yatsuho also came by to drop off a crate of drinks for the dorm and brought a bottle of her classic go-to that she shared with Nana's friends as they talked with Aki. With everyone inside stuffing their faces and killing their livers, Matsuri, who wanted to continue the Christmas tradition with her brother, came by and went around to look for a way to sneak into his room. Meanwhile, Aki, who was bored of Yatsuho's conversation with Miya and Uchifuji, was heading to his room when Nana tried to get him to spend time with her. When he talked about trying to stay off the naughty list for his Santa visit, she almost told him the awful truth, but Yuzu managed to get there in time and filled her in on their Christmas mission. After they saw Nana's friends off and went back inside, Ayaka found Matsuri struggling to sneak in and brought her inside while Yuzu went to tuck in Aki, who had planned to stay up for Santa. Matsuri, who explained herself to the girls, decided to join them in the plan to save Aki's Christmas, and after seeing that he was asleep with Yuzu, she went in with Ayaka to drop his presents while Yanamashi and Yuri stopped Nana from ruining the plan. As they left the room, Aki managed to catch a glimpse of Ayaka and traveled to Dreamland, where he soared the clouds with Santa Ayaka while Nana drove the sleigh, and the girls who were dressed up as reindeers pulled them across the night sky. With New Year's a day away, they all decided to give the whole dorm a deep clean and stole Aki's body heat when they found him in the washroom. To repay him, they cleaned up his room and found a hidden Gymshark magazine that made them even more creeped out by the otaku. That night, Ayaka made them New Year's soba before they all went to their rooms to sleep. Aki hung back as he had planned to stay up until the new year with Ayaka, and as they sat together, she asked him if he liked her care throughout the almost finished year. After thanking her for her support and care throughout the year, his eyes started to give up, but he managed to stay conscious until the clock struck 12. She then took him to his room to get some rest before starting off the new year.